You want to help your man financially, but nowadays it's really very hard. Don't get up at your Trinidad. You're looking down to find something to do. You meet a boss man promise to help you, but when the man lays on the condition, you think that's some humiliation. They want to see the whole anatomy. They want to see what the doctor never see. They want to do what your husband never do. Say you will know if this young is my you. But if the Lord is the humiliation, so get a job to take other woman. But I let them get money, my money. Some of them don't pack up already. Let them sit down, waiting like man to be. You then you go up on the testimony position, waiting to abuse and exploit every woman. So then you walk around the door of the baby. So he said the second wife and deputy. And as the next woman come on the line, he said to tell you you ain't good to be a wife. They want to see you in the fancy gold. They want to see how you look without your clothes. The way you talk up like a body after that. But I want to hold the line. She do that. So before I have to lick down somebody, after I be calling up for me, tell her they could you want to walk with me, so you decide to try to rush you. But when you're done, then you get to know he was VP and one long time ago. But all the cash he's a failure. You know the something what happened to the school. They want to beat up your name and your breast. They want to see you alone and want to chest. They want to do you with the hand. Like if you're searching to find the promised land. I am a woman and a baby in the sky. Before I stop them at the time, tell them they will pay their money. I will pay my money and tell you about it. It's how I lost, I will mention that. When we got to what I'll find out. But you don't know, I'm not ready to be back. I'm having sight of everything. But if you value yourself as a woman, you're ready to manifest one thing I want. Stand up for them, let them know the truth. It's what you want to do, don't bring it. You have a whole lot of facts they want to see. They want to see if you are married to your friend. They want to know how the man you are before. And if you're strong enough to take it home. I have a pride and I have the ambition. I want to hold the hair and I as a woman. Just follow. Thank you. The lovely intelligent singer Sandra. One more time. Singing Sandra. Put your hands together for the 1987 Queen of Calypso, Trinidad and Tobago. The singing Sandra. Would you say it again? You want to hear him again? You guys, you ain't serious. Excuse me while I ask this lady what she wants to do. Do you want to hear it again?
Yes, I do.
Do you want to hear it again? Oh, do you want to hear it again?
Yes.
Do you all want to hear it again? One more time from the top, fellas. Let's welcome again on stage, singing Sandra. One more time, the queen of TNT, 1997, Miss Dignity, singing Sandra. One more time, singing Sandra, the queen of TNT, 1987, Miss Dignity, singing Sandra. Come on, give it up.
One long time ago, with all the cash we have, he's a failure. The man is nothing but a helping soul. The one to feed up here, you never like a friend. The one to see you to my daughter on your chin. The one that you want to do your wedding hand. That in the church, don't find me for this land. I am a woman that go make any kind of that. Because of the man that died on the heart attack. And let it go to the money. I'm not going to tell you just now tell Sparrow to keep me money, I go keep my money. But if I tell you what I say, I don't mind. But if my Sparrow was here, I want to tell you what he would have said. I would say what he would have said, I go answer him back then. Tell me what is wrong with someone. Why the hell there's no right to pretend? Sandra come up here singing stupid. When in fact she enjoys the business. I pay the rent what she did. If I buy the clothes this young Mary, since you're talking about the humiliation, take that work and take but they have made you come up like acrobats. Sandra, nothing wrong with that. Because you know you look so nice and fine. But your life I never tell you can't wine. After being so damn generous, you come up here to make me ignorant. Sandra, keep your money. You can't give me back the nasty money. Just because I stand up for the truth, if I don't start reacting like a brute. Look at the way he fly up in a rage, like if he wants to beat me off the stage. I don't know when he makes on the ocean, like he wants me to have no self-respect. That kind of man like to advantage woman, and when they hear the truth, they offend them. Even the guts to talk about food and food. Why you say, when you try to push it close, you offend me, you're trying to get it paid. And I always talk like that, next question. And the evidence is all the promises. Nobody goes back where he was here. I would have put no money, I'm going to pay my money and that. Come on!
Oh, yes. Only we West Indians could do it like that. Singing Sandra, Die With My Dignity, special request from Flash Gordon. I noticed somebody is requesting Crow's Blackman. Look for that. Singing Sandra, Sandra Devines, one of the greats. If uh, if 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 Calypso Rose and Singing Francine blazed the trail, Singing Sandra took female calypso into the 21st century. Die with My Dignity, one of my favorites, and quite relevant to our politics in Guyana. Quite relevant to our politics in Guyana. The female anthem. You see how them lady in the audience want more of Sandra. Only we could party to protest. Only we. Only we. You can't go to Africa and get that. With all due respect to the motherland. You aren't getting that in Kenya. You aren't getting that in Nigeria. Certainly you're not getting that in Calcutta and Madras and Mumbai. Um, Only in the Caribbean we could protest and party to the protest. And the little extempo, where she imagined what Sparrow would say in his response to her. And she sang that, and then she responded to him. Extempo, singing Sandra, good evening to all of you. And welcome to Politics 101. On Thursday night, we continue the conversation. The conversation. What is happening? What is happening in our Guyana? Last night, we showed you that malicious cartoon from Stabrook News. We have not heard Stabrook News yet on it. We have not heard Stabrook News yet on it. That cartoon talking about crime, that's all well and good. But then you give the crime a black face. Something is wrong with that. Something is wrong with that. And we started that conversation on anti-black racism and the way in which people are trying to justify it. I've said on this program over and over again, I doubt whether people wake up in the morning and say, well, I'm going to oppress some black people today. I will publish a cartoon that is offensive to black people. I don't think people wake up in the morning and say that. I think what happens is that anti-black racism has become so normative in Guyana that people do it, people engage in it without any concern. It's become normative. It's become normative. So people don't have to wake up anymore in the morning and say, I'm going to do a cartoon on crime. And I'm going to give this cartoon, the face of crime, a black face. A black man with a gun in his hand. And somebody in son may beg you, no, don't do me that. Tell me in our Guyana what that could mean. The Americans call it dog whistle. They call it race baiting. But I'm saying I don't believe people in Stabrook News wake up and say we're going to doing black people today. I don't think so. I think it's become normative to doing black people. So when you're doing in black people, you think it's a normal thing you're doing. And you're going to air all kinds of defense of this nonsense. You see, they don't want to deal with the question of race. Because the question of race takes us here. Takes us to this place where all the races are not treated equally and equitably. That there is a certain kind of venom that is set aside for one race. They love the narrative. When we say to them, oh, all races are suffering, oh, they love to hear that because that gives them a pass. It is not the government. Oh, it's normal. All races are suffering. All classes are suffering. And I said, yes, that is true. All races are suffering. But I don't see all races having their house bulldozed by the state. I don't see all races having their boys shot down by the police at their whims. I don't see all races having their female lawyers spat upon because they're representing their client. I don't see the unions of all races being denied collective bargaining. We got to put our mouth right. All races are suffering, but don't stop there. The races experience the suffering differently because we came here at different points and we came here in different circumstances. Oh, I plead, I beg for our leaders not to throw black people under the bus. When black leaders throw black people under the bus, then this kind of stuff happens to black people. They assault our dignity. Our children wouldn't want to be black. If to be black, this is what it means. They will run away from blackness. And I'm calling on our leaders, stand up for black people. If you don't stand up and you play games, then the rulers, the racists have a field day because they know that the leaders of black people are not going to stand up for them. Stabrook News can only publish this because they think it is not offensive. And that is what we're going to be talking about tonight. My guest is a young lady. She was on air for the cricket show on Sunday night. But as you all notice, we are not one-dimensional. Attorney at law, Dawn Holder Cush. She's here tonight. And she's here tonight to talk about these things that I'm talking about. Let's bring in Dawn. Dawn, good evening.
Good evening, David. I see you're a calypso, you like your calypsos. But
Yes.
you should have started at home with Rebel singing Desi You're Wrong. But we could change that to Prezi You're Wrong.
Well, you all see, we have a lot. Rebel, Desi You're Wrong is a staple on the program here.
That's right.
We've played it several times. Yes.
Prezi You're Wrong.
Prezi
You're Wrong.
Prezi You're Wrong. Prezi
Yep.
You're Wrong. Prezi You're Wrong.
You know, and it's
go ahead.
yeah, I said this, and you know, you speak about the portrayal in the cartoon, and I see a young black child, and that really bothers me because in Guyana, we don't have any equality before the law, none at all. The whole justice system and the way the police operate. And if we need an example, we have the example of Nigel Damlal, and Paul also spoke about it today. The police said he went to the police station and he was interviewed. How would the police station be interviewed? You have a report made against him. So when he goes into the station, he's a suspect. And there's something called the judge's rules. And that is what the police have to do. When a police officer is trying to discover whether or by whom an offense has been committed, he's entitled to question any person, whether suspected or not, from whom he thinks that useful information may be obtained. This is so whether or not the person in question is being charged with the offense or informed that he may be prosecuted for. That's rule 1. As soon as a police officer has evidence which would afford reasonable grounds for suspecting that the person has committed an offense, he shall caution that person or cause him to be cautioned before putting to him any questions or further questions relating to that offense. The police said Mr. Damlal was interviewed. Of course, they created this optic of this very, very, very high station bill of $500,000. Right? But from how it is looking already in terms of it appears to be, from my position, as not very good police work. Not very good police work.
Not very good police work. Don, no. I am interested in that process, and I want you to repeat that process for our audience.
Well, the judge's rules are rules that came out of England in the 18th century.
Right.
And the rule 1, right? It says when a police officer is trying to discover whether or by whom an offense has been committed, he's entitled to question any person, whether suspected or not, from whom he thinks that useful information may be obtained. This is so whether or not the person in question has been charged with the offense or informed that he may be prosecuted for it. Rule 2. As soon as a police officer has evidence which would afford reasonable grounds for suspecting that the person has committed an offense, he shall caution that person or cause him to be cautious before putting to him any questions or further questions relating to that offense. Now you have a report from somebody that, in my mind, is reasonable grounds for suspecting that you a crime was committed. Because that's how crimes go. Somebody goes to the police station, I say, David Hines hit me on my head. But you know how fast they will come and lock you up. You get in a straight 72 hours.
Yes.
And all of these things shows the blatant inequality. Because 72 hours, I'm seeing people putting on Facebook, how come you get the usual 72 hours? There's nothing usual about 72 hours in custody. But it's a practice that is developed in Guyana over the past 10 years, where almost everybody who is arrested spends 72 hours in custody. Paul Slow spoke about some list of people who to be arrested when they arrive in Guyana. David, I hope your name is not on that.
Well, I am always, whenever I arrive in Guyana, I take not an extra 10 minutes before they clear me because I cannot be cleared by an immigration officer. They always have to call upstairs for somebody else to clear me. So I'm already
Oh my.
on a list. I've been going through that from the time the PPP came to power. It stopped briefly when the coalition came in because I was discussing it publicly and I think somebody may have heard and they took me off the list. But as soon as the PPP came back to power, every time I come in the country, I have to wait a 5-10 minutes extra. So I rather suspect that I'm on that list. Whether I'm on the list to be arrested, as Paul Slow is saying, there are people on the list where they arrest you upon entry. That I wouldn't know until I get there.
But then he gave an example of a man who came in for a wedding.
Yes.
And he was arrested at the airport and he was taken into custody. He asked what he was being arrested for. Nobody told him anything. They took him somewhere, the family relatives went, asked the same question, nobody told him anything. An attorney got involved, nobody said anything. After 8 hours, he was released without charge, without any further thing. He was able to go to his wedding and leave Guyana. That was the end of it. So after 8 hours with the police, he just walks away. We don't even know what was the allegation, if there was any. And that really, really smells. It has a very, very putrid smell. And that makes me uncomfortable.
Very uncomfortable. I want to go back to the Dharamlal thing. So what I hear you saying is that the procedure that was used when Dharamlal went into that police station was not followed.
That's correct.
And so what happens? What happens now? If the police is not...
Well, Paulson was an assistant commissioner of police.
Mm-hmm.
And he says it looks as if they might be setting this thing up for failure.
Yes. Yes.
Right? And I would hate to think that is so. Because I have a lot of respect for the crime chief, Wendell Blanham. He's not an attorney at law. He's not just a policeman, he's an attorney at law. He knows the law.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, and I know the press association came out and asked for a response and he responded. But it can't end there. He has to keep his eyes on the matter. Right? I am not saying anything about whether Mr. Dharamlal is guilty or innocent. We're not at that stage at all. That is not for me to decide. It is not for the police to decide. It is not for the police to decide. Somebody makes a report. I don't know under what grounds you would not have reason for suspecting that he committed an offense based upon what the young lady said. But he was asked, he gave an interview. Interview? A defendant giving an interview? Oh my goodness. That's a new one. No mention of any caution or anything, you know.
Or anything.
So that is what is troubling. So if he was interviewed and he said things that weren't said before caution is given, that evidence is not admissible. He could do an interview, he could admit everything. If he wasn't cautioned, it's through the door. Through the door.
Don, you have practiced in other parts of the Caribbean. I know you practice in Anguilla, and other places. If a minister in other parts of our Caribbean is alleged to have committed an offense of this nature. Someone who, well, he's no longer minister, but he was a minister. And would the police behave in the way our police are behaving in Guyana?
Not at all. The premier of the BVI was arrested
That's right.
and charged. Michael Misick in Turks and Caicos, he was arrested and charged. Right? So that is nothing new. Not because you're a politician or you're the prime minister or the premier means that these things wouldn't happen to you. Not at all. Particularly in the British overseas territories. Because I worked in Turks and Caicos and I worked in Anguilla. Right? And in places like Barbados, I've seen the deputy speakers being charged and is placed before the court for rape. Right now.
Right now. Right now.
Right now.
Yes.
Right? I mean, this is the deputy speaker of the House of Assembly. In Guyana, I don't know how that will ever happen. Maybe if it was an opposition member, is a different story. Yeah. Different rules apply, right? As what happened with MP Patterson. You know, and I happened to be in court when the magistrate was given his ruling. It was truly embarrassing. Truly embarrassing. Right? That the police would bring a prosecution like that. And one of the witnesses said his boss man told him to make the report.
Wow. 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 Don, let's go back to this thing about the different treatment for people of African descent, especially when it comes to policing and to the criminal justice system. We have that cartoon there by Stabrook News. How disquieting from your standpoint is that cartoon?
It's very disquieting, right? And I'm saying, I think it was last week or the week before, we had the DPP instruct a magistrate to discontinue proceedings against somebody who had an illegal firearm. And the person has an Indian song. The name, I don't know if it's an Indian. Right? And she wrote the magistrate, because under the Constitution, she has the powers to discontinue any criminal proceedings.
Right.
Whether brought by the police or if it is brought privately, she could still discontinue it. Right? So it seems very upsetting to me that this grown man would have that. I don't know if the police didn't have evidence and just charge the man. I rather doubt it. But then you portray a little black boy with a gun in his hand. The little black boys in Guyana, most of them got guns in their hand. David Wallace sing a song and go, the madman ran. Yes. Somebody letting the cocaine pass. Right? And somebody letting the firearms all over. All over.
But Don, I mean, young people with firearms now is an equal opportunity endeavor now in Guyana. I don't think it has a racial face. In fact, it may come as no surprise if young people of ethnic groups other than Africans have more guns in their hands on a normal day-to-day basis in Guyana. Yet Stabrook News would allow a thing like this. I mean, nothing is wrong in talking about the problem of crime, but here you give the problem of crime an ethnic face, a racial face. You're not saying it's a national problem. You're really saying it's a black people problem.
Yeah, they could have put a picture of 5 boys.
That's right.
5 boys standing up.
That's right.
You know, and that would probably be very reflective of where we are in terms of crime. Right? I mean, that is, and the problem with that is you always have the masterminds who sometimes we never know who they are because we have organized crime in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we have the masterminds who sit at home and tell people, listen, this house, so. You could go tonight and bam. And they send the people out there and the young fellas go and do what they got to do. And of course, the mastermind will get the majority of the proceeds. And these people are all nameless and faceless. Right? I want everybody to observe. We have not seen any photograph of Dharmlal at the police station. But you have photographs of former Minister Winston Jordan, right? With handcuffs on, coming out of a cell. And the same thing was done in Alfred. The same thing was done to Dr. Ashley Singh and Vincent Brassington. Right? I don't think that there's need for that at all. There's no need for that in terms of handcuffing and cuffing. I think those are for prisoners who are likely to escape. Likewise, I also felt that the $500,000 bail for Nigel Daniel, I thought that was too high. But then I realized now it's probably just optics.
Yeah.
Nigel Daniel is not a flight risk. He's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. He could be released on his own recognizance. Of course, everybody would say, well, how he could be released, but $500,000 station bail now. In all fairness, that is extremely high.
Yeah, which means it's just a cover, and in
It
any
is a
case,
cover.
$500,000 is small as a small piece for Darren Lal. So it's really
Of course.
he's not going to be sitting in prison while his family run around the place to try to put the money together for him to get bail. So it's really a camouflage. Don, uh, recently we had the human rights hearings, the United Nations human rights hearing, followed by the UN International Decade of the People of African Descent meeting in Geneva, and a lot of charges were made against Guyana. You were following. Were you following those hearings?
Yeah, I was supposed to be part of the delegation, but I was unable to travel. So I was actually following most of the hearings. Very interesting. Sometimes like that. I have a problem with too much talking, and in terms of having some action. I see Vincent Jordan is saying something.
He's saying, correction, I was not handcuffed nor put into a jail cell.
Okay. Now I saw him coming out with the assistance of Royce Food in a photograph.
Right. I think it may be because he was not feeling well.
Okay.
Takumo Gunse was handcuffed and shackled.
So, but I also said Ashley Singh and Winston Brassington. I don't think there was any need to handcuff any of these people.
Right.
They're not going anywhere. They're not going to run away. These men were given bail and returned to living overseas and will come back for their trial.
Yeah. So Don, as you looked at the hearings, the meeting there in Geneva, and the issues that came up as it relates to racial oppression of Black people across the world, what aspect of it struck you as it relates to Guyana?
That the government of Guyana was asking for there to be a third decade.
You mean a second decade?
No, this is the second decade.
Right.
So they were asking for a third decade.
Okay.
Right? I mean, the Ipadiji side was asking for that, but it was shocking to hear the government of Guyana asking for that.
Why it's shocking?
A lot of what they had to say was like everything is going pretty well. So there was this guy from the ERC was there. I think he was the
Suban.
Yeah, and then I saw him in his red shirt recently at the Congress. I have no problem with that and so on. But he was there and the Minister of Business, Onesh Wall. It was a rather strange allegation because it was the Minister of Business and the Minister of Labor, Joe Hamilton.
Right.
So they just picked two Black ministers. And those were the people who went to represent the Ghana and Suban from the ERC. Not necessarily that I'm sure they had all the persons that they could have sent who might have been more familiar and so on with the whole decade and what it was about. But that was their choice. And at once I think they wanted to respond to something that Nigel said, but the chair wouldn't allow them to respond to that.
Right. One of the issues, Don, has been the withdrawal of the subvention to Ipadiji on some flimsy grounds. Now, that subvention, of course, was given by President David Granger. He was not lobbied. Nobody went to him. He came to Coffee 250 at their annual conference, and he bemoaned the fact that the African organizations were doing nothing, and we had gone 3 or 4 years into the decade.
and he committed his government to supporting the decade, and he announced that government would support the decade. And I can't remember whether he announced the subvention at the meeting, but he said he committed his government to it. And as he was leaving, he came over to Vincent Alexander and myself and said that you all have to make this thing happen. The rest is history. Vincent is the chairman of IPADG. IPADG brings together now 78 African organizations. The government came in and withdrew that subvention on the flimsy ground that IPADG was using the subvention on staff and other things, and they were not using it on Black people. What are your thoughts on that action by the government?
Well, I don't want to comment too much because that matter is currently before the court.
Right.
Right. So I don't want to comment too much on that. But the matter is before the court. The party is represented by Nigel Hughes, and I think we're hoping we'd had a decision before Switzerland, but that didn't happen. So, but I hope that we could get a decision on that, and that clears up everything.
And that clears, yes.
Yeah, but apart from clear that, we have to hope then that the government won't then decide whether we want to appeal it.
Right.
And frustrate the process. As I'm saying, this should not even be an issue. This should not be an issue to say that they're going to give the money to the individual organizations. No. If this is our deck, and we have an association that is formed and is recognized by the United Nations, how can you then decide how they will use the money? How will they do that? I mean, you have the Indian Arrival Committee, right? Who I'm sure gets a subvention. If another government comes into power, should they then say, oh, we will give the money to all the other Indian organizations? We wouldn't give it to the Indian Arrival Committee. That is wrong. That is wrong. What is good for Peter is good for Paul.
Exactly.
But that is just not the norm of the day in this country, and it breaks my heart. And because it is done so, it is not even done in a subtle manner. It is done so blatantly, without shame, without care. It's like people say, well, these people believe we can't see, we can't read, we can't hear, with all that is going on. We know everything that is going on, so you got to treat us with a little more respect than that. Right? I mean, talking about professional people and so on, and equality and so on. I mean to bring them into disrepute by some of the statements that were made, and so it's very unfortunate. Very, very, very unfortunate.
Very, very unfortunate. Don, you obviously followed what happened in Mocha Arcadia, with the dismantling of people's homes and businesses there. And now we seem to be having a brewing confrontation at Peters Hall. You've been
success was yesterday.
Success there. We saw the situation with success in the last couple of days. What are your thoughts on, first of all, the Peters Hall thing? As the government handled it correctly, and then the situation of success?
But you see, the government may have handled it in terms of what is written in the law. But when you're dealing with human beings and things like property, right, you have to tread with caution. And it's how you do things. That is what is important. Because, I mean, if you build your nice house in Peters Hall and you want to build this bridge and all of that and so on, I'm wondering if there's anything that could have been done to shift where the bridge could be so it doesn't affect so many people. I don't know. But I'm sure the people who own the houses there are thinking the same thing. Why here? What is so important about crossing from there to the other side of the Demerara River that you couldn't find somewhere else? The Demerara Harbor Bridge, I don't think there was displacement.
Yes, when they were building the first bridge.
That's right. I don't think there was any displacement.
I cannot remember any displacement there.
But I mean, this is just norm now. This is just norm.
Yeah, and you raise an important point there, and that is, if you're doing planning, you are trying as much as possible not to affect ordinary human beings because you want people's life not to be overly disrupted. But at the same time, yes, you want what they're now calling development. And
That's
so,
right.
therefore, as you make your plan, you want to do it in a way that you're not going to dislocate people. And I am sure if they looked around, they could have found a spot for that bridge on both sides of the river.
I,
That,
I, I, I strongly feel so.
yeah,
I
yeah,
strongly feel so.
yeah,
Then you had, but in another case, the people who sell it on the seawall, right? Some of them had no permission to sell and so on. But to give people 1 day notice to move, I
yeah.
mean, it's something wrong with that. Something is terribly wrong with that. And then when the minister goes out there, he says, "Oh, those who have permission can stay." There's a lady in the back who said, "Yes, Mr. I'm going to vote for you all. I'm going to vote for you all." And I said, "This lady serious? I hope she analyzed me. I
Mm-hmm,
really do. I really do." Right? Yeah, I think the thing with that is the places should be movable.
mm-hmm.
Right? So when you look now, most of them they are movable because they like the chat houses in Barbados, so they're easy to move.
Right, right.
But they're all going to have to move. The Qataris want the beachfront,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
And now we have the development there in success.
Pardon?
I said we have the development in success now. It seems as
That's
though
correct. That's
every
correct. I mean,
yeah,
I saw a man last. I said he was a single father, right? And he had no idea where he would go with his children. And he was saying if somebody could help him because he was working 2 days a week and he really, really needed help. And the thing about it is success had a multi-ethnic population.
yes,
It was not only black people who were affected, right? There were Indians there who were affected and crying. And so, I mean, I saw people houses broken down, a fridge leave. It was horrible. And then you had heavy rain, which caused even more damage. And nothing is put in place for these people. So as an alternative, here will happen. Y'all could go to place A, B, or C. No, nothing.
yes. The callousness is,
That's
I-
correct.
you know,
There seems to be lack of humanity. And the irony of it all is the minister is a bishop, a man of the cloth.
yeah, 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 yeah. Don, the government does these things and then goes overseas and says, "Oh no, we're not discriminating against people in Guyana. Everything is okay. African Guyanese are not being discriminated. We're treating them very well." What's happening there? How can you do what you're doing in bright daylight and then turn your face the next way and say it is not true? This is not what we're doing.
But
What?
that was a big problem with the Washington conference.
Yeah,
That was the big issue. They did not want people to go and meet with US lawmakers and people of influence to hear our sides of the story. Right? So they did everything possible, including stopping MP Patterson at the airport. The day before, four of us left: Roysdale Ford, Don Hastings, Cathy Hughes, and myself. I say, imagine if they had stopped us. My Lord.
yeah,
You'd have had two lawyers and a lawyer's wife.
yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah,
But it was, when I was coming back, I was saying, Lord, I hope when I come back, I don't have any problems. I had no problems when I came back. America, they start to think, well, what is going to happen when you come back now? It's you just all kinds of thoughts going through your head, all kinds of thoughts. And then I was so glad my bag was packed straight from DC straight to Georgetown.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it went through everything there and came back here and everything was fine. And I thank the Lord for that. But I'm saying nobody should ever have to feel that way. That
Yeah,
because our political views may differ. I'm a Guyanese just like everybody else. And this is my God, this is my home. I lived overseas for years. When my father got ill, I came back home. And he said, you know, we like talk and talk and talk and talk. You got to get involved. You can't just sit down talking. You got to get involved, Don. And that's that. After that, I said, I will get involved. But I was never pushing to get involved until the government decided they're going to knock me off.
Yeah,
For what?
yeah. And
For what?
remind us about that. Remind us
Yeah,
about the
I was directing the Competition Consumer Affairs Commission. I was interviewed in 2012
yeah.
by a board chaired by Ramesh Duku. Sharon Rupchan was on the board, who's now PS Ministry of Business. Nizam Ali. Those were the three board members. I was interviewed at Georgetown Club and given the job. You have to get was it a consent from the minister before you could take up the appointment. I didn't get it. The minister is now the president of Guyana. So when Apnu came into office, I got the job. And the elections was the results were, I think, are they in August? And on the 15th of October, I went to a board meeting and I was given a termination letter. Give me 1 month's salary in lieu of notice, and all my benefits were prorated. And this was done by Onej Waldron, who was somebody who was 1 year behind me. I never had a problem with her at all. Right? And then you hear people talking about the same Nigel Darmlal, how he was facilitating some of the people who worked with him who were being sent home. You know, by saying, like, you know, in terms of like, what is best for you, how we could do this, work this thing out. But I guess she was new and nobody wanted to take a chance and so on. But I mean, it was totally unnecessary. I never advocated for anything while I was on the job. But when they knocked me off, well, I have all the time in the world now. Right? And I am now a victim. So when they say Vincent Adams did not resign, as did Nigel Darmlal and Colin Crowell, who were permanent secretaries in 2015 when Apnu came into office, I made a comment. I said, but I was not a political appointee. So how come I was terminated? The post was taken down. The post was taken down. And it was not only me. I mean, I'm not, how fast can I be a political appointee? I was appointed by a PPP board. And I left there in 2020, David, and they now wanted the third director.
The third director.
Yes, I served for 5 years. This is now 4 years since I left, and they wanted director number 3.
But that's consumer affairs thing. If anything that should be non-partisan, it should be that should be an area that political parties should not be interested in getting political appointee there. Why they want to control something like that? Who heads up the Consumer Commission?
What do you mean? Because a lot of the complaints coming against certain businessmen.
Yeah.
A lot of complaints coming against certain businessmen on a regular basis, particularly the auto dealers. Right? Particularly the auto dealers. So I mean, at the end of the day, I guess you gotta look after your people. I mean, maybe the lesson we should learn.
Yeah. Yep.
Because yep. I see sometimes how you know we always say, I have a very good friend, I won't call her name, and we always say, well, how we gonna look?
Yeah.
This person we say, how we gonna look?
How we gonna look? Yes. Yeah.
But that's us. No.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a man like Guyanese critic cussing up every morning, right? Cussing out everybody who's hungry belly and low life and this and that. I mean, it is disgusting. And this man should not be associated with anybody. And he has a level of access that a lot of people don't have. And he's one of the most disrespectful people. And it is sad. And they use their thing. I mean, when the Congress here and say, oh, you must use social media to counteract their opposition. If they use it and they use it well, no problem with that. And every government will have to face criticism. Every government, any part of the world you go, will have to face criticism. Unless you live in Russia. But we're supposed to be living in a democratic country. And if people's skin is not thick enough to take criticism, then they should not hold office. Because a lot of the criticism is not necessarily personal. It is about some of the policies, right? And I think if they involve more people, bring more people to the table, then they might be surprised how much better life will be for everybody. And it's less stress for them. Right? I always tell people, like, oh, this big, stinky elephant in the room, And even if you take the elephant out of the room, the stench remains. Because we never would come together and discuss this issue of race. When you're growing up, you hear all sorts of things. The only Indian to trust is a dead one. You hear black people like thief, black people lazy, right? And then you also have, black women and so on would say, oh, she got good hair, or when you marry, you must improve your breed so your child could have curly hair and nonsense like that. So I'm saying the whole issue of race has to come on the table and we have to discuss it. We can't pretend it is not an issue. It is an issue. Though you also have the issue of the have and the have-nots as well.
Yes.
Right? So you have, it's two separate issues. But the race issue, to me, is the one that people need to come together. I have no ERC or nothing like that. Right? I'm saying you need to get a think tank of people. Just pick people from all over who can contribute in a meaningful way, who love Guyana as I love Guyana, and as you love Guyana. And as Nandala loves Guyana, as Manichan loves Guyana. They should come together and sit down and have a conversation. Have a serious conversation. Let us tell each other how we feel. Because I will tell everybody, my ancestors came here on a ship. And when some of them there to throw the body over into the river, into the sea. We were treated like dogs. Indentured laborers came and they had contracts. They know the name of the boats they came on. They have the records.
Yeah.
They retain the culture, their religion, their names. Your name is David, my name is Dawn. I don't know where I'm from. You know where you're from, David?
No. All I know is from West Africa. So, and the studies have shown it might be somewhere there, and where Ghana and Sierra Leone. I know, but other than that, the point you're making is that there is a clear historical memory among our brothers and sisters who came after emancipation. And
all the traditions, all the religion, all the culture is right there. Right there. Yeah. Right there. They wear their saris, they put on the dot, they do everything. What we have, most of us grew up in Christian churches. Right? Because that's how the slaves were treated. I'm a member of St. Andrew's Church, and it has stairs to go upstairs, and the slaves sat upstairs. I went to a church in Long Island, and had a place with the part of the church, it had like padlocks, right? And the slaves would go to church and would be padlocked inside there.
Yeah.
And the slave owners would then sit in front of the priest and so on. The priest is speaking, the slaves there and the slave masters here. And that happened in Guyana, I guess, and all over the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And in America as well. But it is very, very sad, and particularly when some people attempt to pretend that they're the same. Phillips wrote a very beautiful letter, setting out the major differences between the two.
Yes, I remember. Yes,
indentureship and slavery.
Yeah.
Right? And I think everybody should read that.
Yeah.
And then you could get a better sense of appreciating how different we are.
Yeah.
Right?
Eric was on this.
Yes, somebody said we shouldn't say we're Guyanese of African descent, or we should not simply say we're Guyanese. No, I'm a Guyanese, but I'm a black Guyanese. And I'm a Guyanese of African descent, and I'm proud of that. I'm very, very proud of that. I used to contemplate changing my name and so on. My father very opposed to that. I name you, I give you that name. There's no day without a dawn, you know? And I bought into that. I wanted to change. I had all kind of fancy names, Adiola, kind of fancy. I was going to change my name. Like Kamani Nehusi and these people and stuff. But they would talk about you didn't change your name.
Hey, by the time I get around to changing my name, I was far gone. You know, when you come into America, you gotta get the name from your mother and your father and so on. So although I don't want my African name, my mother I gotta keep my mother name because my mother said it for me and all kind of fancy story. The long and short of the thing, I had to stay with the name.
Yeah, you know, it's not the name, it's what's in your heart. Eh?
Yeah. But I am now what you
Yeah,
call a chief of
yeah.
Guyana, and I'm
I know that. I know. I didn't go to your ceremony, but I was at Eric's ceremony
ceremony.
at the
Yes,
Ramada Hotel. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So
I
I
was
now have an African name, Chief Uhuru. So
Chief
that's
what?
Uhuru, Uhuru,
Chief Chief
Uhuru.
Uhuru. Okay,
Mhm.
Chief Uhuru. I must address you properly. I should go when I see you. So
So
you have your ancestral wear and so on.
yes, I have my ancestral wear my cane and all of that. I still
Okay,
have
so yours was done in Buxton.
mine was done in Buxton.
Okay, that's
I
very
still have
very
to go
nice.
to Africa to finish the process. Because you have to go and they give you the key to a village and so on when you get
Oh
there.
my.
Gone last year, but I haven't been able to get over to Africa yet. But yes, in much later on, I have my African name now.
Oh
um,
yes, 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 Chief. Yes, Chief. Don't ever let anybody forget that, eh?
right, I know. They
So
quarrel.
maybe when you're traveling to Ghana, you should dress in your robes.
The Africanists quarrel with me all the time of not using my chieftain status more. And thanks for
That's
reminding.
correct.
Yeah, yeah,
That's correct.
yeah,
That's a big deal.
yeah. Don,
That's a big, big deal.
um we had this issue of the president feeding soldiers recently and dancing up, and people made comments about it. And a lot of people are suggesting that it's more than just a president dancing or feeding soldier. There's something else that is not nice about that kind of thing. What's your thoughts on
Well, I studied it 3 years ago. You probably didn't know that. So I
that?
like to research things, right? And I was looking and I saw something that is called a boundaries breaking tactic. Tactic. David, you're gone.
I'm still here. I still here. I was blocked
Yeah,
off there. Go
yeah,
ahead.
it's called a boundaries breaking tactic,
Hmm.
right? And it's suggested if you use that enough times, you let go of the boundary. And just this time, when repeated over and over again, it is conditioning you to not protest what boundaries are crossed. Maybe I should just go on. I think it may have been poor judgment on the part of the president that is giving him the benefit of the doubt. Um, the optics were horrible, very horrible. And I've spoken to retired senior army officers who are outraged, right? And some people are saying, oh, but the people were smiling and so on. Smiling doesn't mean anything. It could be an uncomfortable smile,
Yes. Yeah.
right? Because you don't want to be disrespectful. You don't know what to do. It's kind of, you're caught in such a position. You're not even sure what you could do. I mean, I would hate for anybody to be putting food in my mouth. I would have a big part. It's the only way you get him married, like though your husband is feed you, you feed him and so. But it's not even holding your fingers and putting it in your mouth. I found it very offensive, right? And I'm saying these officers are commanders of troops in the GDF at a stage when all frivolity should be through the door. With Venezuelans, the way the Venezuela is acting in terms of increasing its momentum to annex Essequibo. We should not have our commanders looking like clowns, laughing at somebody stuffing cake in the mouth. No. What I said? Let's give the president, let us say it was a poor judgment on his part. Because I found recently, I was looking at photographs of the Congress, and I think he's, I don't even want to say that he seems to be always very lighthearted. Because if you see the photographs of the Congress, a lot of times he's like laughing, and Mr. Jagger is kind of looking at him like, what the hell wrong with you?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he's looking at him, he's talking to him, Mr. Jagger head is straight up in the ear, like, what are you doing? So it seems that he has a problem in terms of the boundaries and how to behave and that sort of thing, you know, and it is sad because I can't imagine if it was David Granger, who was a force commander of the GDF, had done something like that.
Oh no. Oh no. They would have. Oh yes.
Exactly. And this is a man who was a force commander. But that would never happen. Never ever happen. I know Mr. Granger, you know Mr. Granger.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise with the dancing. Mm-mm. No. No.
Yeah. There's a time and place for everything.
Michael Jackson is a black icon. He is a black icon. He's our icon. Right? And I just gave, and I don't know if Mr. Granger or Mr. Hyde had decided at some stage to dress up and pretend to sing a song by somebody called Sonu Nigam or Kishore Kumar.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be met with outrage.
Yeah.
But of course, you know, they said, Oscar Wilde said, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery that mediocrity can pay to greatness. Right?
Read that again, Don.
Oscar Wilde said,
Yes.
imitation is the sincerest form of flattery that mediocrity can pay to greatness. Right? And I'm saying, you like Michael Jackson, you want to dance like him, remember the words that he said. He has a song called They Don't Care About Us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All I want to say is that they don't really care about us. Tell me what has become of my rights. Am I invisible because you ignore me? I'm tired of being a victim of shame. They're throwing me in a class with a bad name. Think about that. That's what Michael Jackson said. Those are the words of the song. And then he also has the other one. The man in the mirror.
Yes.
I'm starting with the man in the mirror.
In the mirror.
I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change.
Yeah.
So if the president is a fan of Michael Jackson, he should familiarize himself with Michael Jackson songs, because a lot of them are very, very deep,
Very positive. Very positive.
right?
You know.
And the particular one with the man in the mirror is just perfectly suited.
Yes. Yes.
It's not
Yeah.
about dancing and singing. It's about the man. It's about what his music stood for, right? This I think it was at Michael Jackson's funeral that Michael Jordan paid a tribute, and he says because of Michael Jordan, he opened the door for people to have daytime shows and late night shows and to play basketball and be recognized, and Tiger Woods to be this golfer. And he went so far and he said, and to have Barack Obama in the White House. It all started with Michael Jackson broke the barriers
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because his music was global. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't have I don't have a problem with anybody liking Michael Jackson music and so on. But to go and dance it like that, no man, no, 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 no. Facebook has a video, and they say everybody has an uncle that goes to an Indian wedding and thinks he's Michael Jackson,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And of course, they show a drunk man trying to dance like Michael Jackson, right? And I mean, in the present case, again, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I think he got carried away. I think it was a very, very, very bad idea, right? And then, in addition to that, they had a skit that mimicked the teachers who were striking. So when
Yeah.
you put all it together, it's just bad. It's bad.
Yes. It's
So I don't
really
know.
making.
I don't know who you're reaching out to
Yeah.
by dancing like Michael Jackson,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
because I don't think that connect will be there with the people who are the Congress,
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
right? If he'd gone and sing Sahani Rat, right, he might have gotten thunderous applause
Yeah.
and not laughter, and not laughter,
Right. Right. Right.
right? Because I would hate to think that we have somebody with comedic talent who is the president.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the way in
He's
which
an intelligent man, and I'm saying I'm giving him the benefit of the
benefit,
doubt. It's a
benefit of the
bad
doubt.
judgment call.
Yeah. Yeah.
And somebody should have told him, do not do that.
Do
But
not do.
in politics, sometimes people want to tell you that and say, no, something. Let you go along and do what you gotta do. And nobody would say anything. And then he's the talk of the town. In
Yeah.
what way, what they might have been a brilliant idea turned out to be not so brilliant after all.
Not so brilliant after all. Don, where you stand on what the government is doing with the teachers, even as we speak. Every time this matter seems to be taking a turn for the better, the government finds a way to hold it up. And obviously, we have found the teachers are back on strike. The government has called them to conciliation, but they are not. They are not budging on the periodization that the teachers have put on the table, 2019 to 2023. So although they've agreed to go to conciliation, it's not conciliation to solve any problem. It's really, in a sense, to put barriers in the way. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, the reaction of the Attorney General to the ruling by Justice Kissoon,
Mhm.
I think that tells you everything you need to know, right? That you would say the judge's ruling is presumptuous because the president said that. Sorry,
The Vice President
the vice president said that. Sorry, the vice president said that. My bad, and I
Yeah.
apologize to the Attorney General
Yeah.
that it was presumptuous of him to make a decision like that. I mean, who is Mr. Jagger to decide what is presumptuous? Mr. Jagger is a presumptuous man.
in
He has
every
called,
sense,
he has
in
called
every
Patrice
sense
a
of the
lowlife.
Guyanese meaning, in every sense of the Guyanese meaning of presumptuous, he's a presumptuous man. Can we-
Presumptuous man. He's a presumptuous man, and he knows that too, and he's happy with that. He's very happy with that. He don't care. But I'm saying, pay the teachers. None of us would be where we are without teachers.
Mhm.
My mother taught for 19 years, right? Teachers have had tremendous impact in my life. I remember my teachers from primary school, from Queen's College, And I went to Wolmer's High School in Jamaica, and I have teachers that memories will stay with me forever. In terms of little things they might have said at the time, it might not have meant anything. But as you get older, you start to remember the things that they would say. You know, I remember my mother used to say when I was at law school, get up and study as if you're working. Study from 8 to 4:30. Take an hour for lunch. And look at TV in the afternoon after that and go to bed early and sleep. And that's what I did. So when everybody's sleeping all day and born in the midnight, I'm in my bed. I use my daytime hours for my studying. And I think it was the teacher in her, right? Saying, look, this is the best way to do this thing. The teachers should be paid. I don't know what is money can't be the problem. Gawu went, or what happened? They get through.
They get through.
Yeah.
Right
So what
away.
happened to the teachers? What happened to the teachers? The teachers have to be paid. The teachers have to be paid. It is unforgivable. There's no need for them to be back on the road again. And they say, oh, you have sexy coming up and all that. But if you know they got sexy coming back, enjoy the teachers back in the classroom. The teachers, when I heard of some of the silent teachers, it is appalling. It is appalling. And I take my hat off to them in solidarity for having the boots on the road. Boots on the ground, slippers on the ground, whatever it is, they're out there and they're sticking to it. Right? And it's unfortunate at this time that the Public Service Union doesn't see it fit to be part of that process. But that is another story. That's a totally different story.
That's another story.
Which is sad because I mean the public servants are treated badly as well. But I'm saying now we talk about people, children, pay the teachers.
Yes.
Pay
Instead of trying to get the teachers back in class, they've postponed end of term exams. They're saying the teachers must send the children over to the next class based on work they did during the semester or during the term. So instead of trying to get the teachers back in the classroom so that they can administer the end of year exam, they have called off the end of year exam. It tells you how brutal they are in terms of fighting these teachers.
No, but as far as I know, I think children automatically now go from one class to the next.
I think they may have altered that. I don't know. I can't be too sure.
They've altered that? Okay.
Yes, I think at one time they put that in place, that children automatically will go over. And I think they're now altered and have gone back to the way we know it, which is that you have to pass to go over.
Okay.
But they've cancelled those exams rather than trying
but
to.
The children are probably very, very happy.
Of course.
And then you have a teacher who's not on strike today that took belts off for some QC boys and flogged them. You didn't see that in the news? It was in the news tonight. She's been sent on administrative leave with pay.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh Lord. Yeah, oh Lord. One of our viewers is saying
took their belts off of their pants and beat them.
And beat them with their own belt.
Yep.
Yeah. One of our viewers is saying that Jack Dio Colroy did for the low life today at his press conference. There we go again. This man is so disrespectful, so presumptuous.
He said I was a criminal cohort of Rickford Book.
Yes. I heard him when he said that.
And you know what I did? I wrote a letter and pointed out the section which says the magistrate could only issue a summons to be served within Guyana.
Yeah.
And that started with Darmlal making a post, tagging Guyanese critic, the US Embassy, Baron Jagdio, Ifran Ali, a whole set of people. Like I got get licked because I write a letter. He says I am, what is it? Part of a conspiracy to obstruct justice.
Yeah. The right to free speech is dead in our
but
country.
It's just a whole lot of bullyism. Right? And it is very fortunate for us, I think, that we have fortitude. That sometimes people don't realize how strong we are until you have to deal with situations.
Like this, yes. Like this. Yeah.
Right? The teachers are determined and they decided this time we're not gonna play with them.
Right. right.
So
Don,
they make it, they still have the other exams though. You have the CXC and all those exams.
yeah. FCXC coming up. Right. Don, is there anything else you want to talk about that I didn't ask you to?
No, I don't think so. No, I look forward to the elections. I hope we could have things in place like biometrics and so on.
Yes, and the
And,
next one,
and
right.
I hope that the elections can go smoothly without any interference from anybody outside. Um, I call them the spin twins. One from Barbados and one from St. Vincent.
Ah, Mia
The one I ain't calling no name. The one from St. Vincent is our friend, but he's a comrade to Venezuela. Right?
yes.
And we go to talks at Argyle International Airport built by Hugo Chavez for St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Yeah, yeah,
And Mr. Maduro plane on the tail says, Essequibo es nuestros.
yeah,
So you could say we want to have a forward board. I mean, you turn it back and say later.
yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah,
no way you can talk to a man because a man is so barefaced. The next meeting that they're exchanging rum and all kind of thing.
yeah. There's no way people like
And
Burnham.
this man has zero respect for the international court for anybody. So I don't know why you need to meet with him.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean,
We just getting duped all the time.
yeah, yeah.
You know, and it's sad. It's sad.
Sad.
But I just hope that the Venezuela is I think brings all the Guyanese together.
Yeah,
Right? I mean everybody's very, very patriotic. I've never met somebody who's everybody is Essequibo belongs to we.
that's right.
Right? And we hope, we really want our Guyana government to ensure that it remains that way.
Yeah,
Because I don't know how we could have another country come in and take away our rich Essequibo. No,
no, no way,
not at all.
no way.
But
Um,
but but, but I think
Don,
that's about it. It was
yeah,
nice being here again as usual.
yes, and we'll certainly make sure that you come back more often. This is your first time
Okay.
on Politics 101, and you were on the cricket show over the weekend. But we certainly would have you back as a regular commentator on these issues. Don, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chief Uhuru.
Here you go. Oh, Don Older, quite a sport and quite a fierce debater. I first met Don years ago when we would meet up every Saturday night. They say the so-called Black Georgetown middle class would meet at a certain place and hang out on Saturday afternoon. And Dawn was always giving it to the men. There were mostly men there, and she was always giving it. I remember asking Auda, and then they told me who she was. Quite right. I went home and I told my partner at that time. She said, "What, Don? Don is my classmate at Queens," and so on. Yeah, and she said Don has always been like that since they were in high school. Thank you all so much for coming with us another evening to really continue to bear witness to our struggle at this time. We struggle today in a certain way so that tomorrow we don't have to struggle that way. The heat is on. We've been before the heat before, and we've beaten the heat, and we're going to beat this heat. Believe it or not, we're going to beat this. Tomorrow night, we're back again. I think we have Dr. Vincent Adams, who is going to be on tomorrow night, and somebody else. But we're going to be here tomorrow night, bright and early, ready to take on the monsters. You know what Claude McKay say? If he must die, then let it not be like hogs. If we must die, let us nobly die, that even the monsters we defy shall be constrained to honor us, though dead. The monsters we defy. If we must die, let it not be like hogs, hunted and penned in an inglorious spot. Never, never, never. Let us stand up like men, dying but fighting back. See you all tomorrow night.